Hare Krishna, Indusa Mataji. Yeah.
We are graced by the presence of Hare Krishna, Mataji, we did not hear you well. You are saying something. I see today we are graced by the presence of our Grace Bandra Mataji. Maybe she can kindly start us off with Mangacharan.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, everyone. Mangalacharan.
Hare Krishna.
Om Ajnanantimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuru Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Dadanti Shvapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shutapadakammalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadhvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna.
Thank you so much, Bandra Mataji, for that beautiful charana. I'd like now to hand over to our today's mentor. Welcome, Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. We are reading today from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Canto, Chapter 6, Creation of the Universal Form, Chapter 35. So, I will read the shloka and then maybe Mogo Prabhu or someone else can chant or recite the shloka after me. And I'll read the translation and then another volunteer can read the purport. Etakshatar Bhagavato Raiva Karmatma Rupina Kashadadaya Dukakaratum Yogamaya Barodayam. Mogo Prabhu, you can kindly recite the shloka.
Eta Sata Etat Sata Bhagavato Daiva Karma Atma Rupina Kana Sradhya Upakratum Yoga Maya Balodayam.
Thank you. Translation. O Vidura, who can estimate or measure the transcendental time, work, and potency of the gigantic form manifested by the internal potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Purport by His Divine Grace is Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada. Maybe someone else can read the purport, a volunteer.
Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances. Purport by His Grace Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The froggish philosophers may go on with their mental speculations on the subject matter of the Virat, the gigantic form exhibited by the Yoga Maya internal potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But factually, no one can measure such a vast exhibition. In Bhagavad Gita 11.16, Arjuna, the recognized devotee of the Lord, says, Aneka Bahudara Vaktra Netram. Pashyami Tvam Sarvato Nanta Rupam. Nantam na Madhyam na Punastavadim. Pashyami Vishveshwara Vishwarupa. O my Lord, O gigantic Vishwarupa form, O Master of the universe, I see innumerable hands, bodies, mouths, and eyes in all directions, and they are all unlimited. I cannot find the end of this manifestation, nor do I see the middle, nor the beginning. Bhagavad Gita was specifically spoken to Arjun, and the Vishwarupa was exhibited before him at his request. He was awarded the specific eyes to see this Vishwarupa. Yet, although he was able to see the Lord's innumerable hands and mouths, he was unable to see him completely. Since Arjuna was unable to estimate the length and breadth of the potency of the Lord, who else would be able to do so? One may only indulge in miscalculation like the frog philosopher. The frog philosopher wanted to estimate the length and breadth of the Pacific Ocean by his experience of a well 3 cubic feet large, and thus he began to puff himself up to become as big as the Pacific Ocean, but at last he burst and died by this process. This story is applicable to the mental philosophers who, under the illusion of the Lord's external energy, indulge in estimating the length and the breadth of the Supreme Lord. The best path is to become a cool headed, submissive devotee of the Lord. Try to hear about the Lord from the bona fide spiritual master and thus serve the Lord in transcendental loving service, as suggested in the previous verse. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Suchi. So I'd like to recite just few verses in the interpretation of the Bhagavatam, and then we'll start our discussion. Hare Kabandhu Matsangu, Madhuru Manahadana, Manishkara Samasaya, Madanandana Mustuti, Asavi Sadutadayin, Atali Chatakara, Anamun Chakarachimam, Pinari, Santayusura, Surave Gurachandraya, Ravikaya Saraya, Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya, Sadbhaktaya Namo Namaha. First of all, I would like to offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my supremely merciful spiritual master, unto his spiritual master, and unto the spiritual master of the whole world, Srila Prabhupada, and all the Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas in our Sampradaya. And I pray that I can be a useful representative and instrument in their service. I also offer my respectful obeisances unto all of you Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis present in today's online Srimad Bhagavatam discussion, and beg your blessings so that I can say something which is of value to our progress in Krishna consciousness as well as to my own purification. Hare Krishna. So, we are hearing from the 6th chapter of the 3rd canto, Creation of the Universal Form, and Vidura is continuing to hear from Maitreya Muni. In the previous texts, we have heard him describe the manifestations of the universal form or the creation of the universal form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. And in the recently previous verses, you must have heard him describe how from the Virat Rupa or from the gigantic universal form of the Lord, different varnas or occupational or classifications of occupations in the society have been classified or have been manifested from the gigantic body of the Lord, the Virat Rupa. Like he says, the Brahmanas come from the mouth of the Supreme Lord, And from the arms of the universal form come the Kshatriyas, and from the thighs come the Vaishyas, merchants and businessmen and farmers who engage in cow protection and similar activities. And then the Shudras, the working class, the liberal class of the society, they come from the feet or from the legs of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then he's saying all these are based, to go back, if you track back to even the verse before the classification of the Varnas, all these are based on the modes of material nature, which condition a living entity. And therefore, for a living entity who wants to be free from conditioning and wants to achieve self-realization, he should worship the Supreme Lord under the direction of the spiritual master. And then in today's fast, now we can see him marvel at the extent of this supreme of this supreme personality of Godhead, because he's saying here, Etak Shatur Bhagavatu Kasha Dayad Upakartum. Who can estimate or measure the transcendental time, the transcendental work or potency of the gigantic form that has been manifested under the internal potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? So he is glorifying the transcendental nature of the form of the Lord, of his potencies, of his nature, because it is transcendental. Conditioned souls, unless they come through souls who are not under the conditioning of material nature, then they do not have the capacity to even estimate. It's beyond them. When you speak of conditioning, it's like it's more of an ISKCON jargon, or say a language used in spiritual circles amongst the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, or amongst many Vaishnavas. You hear
He should have given the money earlier. दररोज याद करावती थी.
It's not
Sorry for the Mataji, we are lengthy. Sorry for the disruption. Yeah, so when we speak of the term conditioned, what does this really mean? Like in Kenya, we have a mobile providing a company that provides mobile services. That is Safaricom. I don't know if they still have this as the motto of their business. They used to say Safaricom, the best option. Terms and conditions apply. If you're using Safaricom, meaning it is the best option, I don't know if that is the same anymore. That time it used to be a monopoly, now it no longer is, but I don't know if it's the best option, but it's the most approved by the Kenyan government. But terms and conditions apply. What does that mean? This means if you want to communicate, then Safaricom is the best option for you, but there will be terms and conditions. I cannot call, if I want to call Subhadra Mataji and speak to her by the phone using a Safaricom SIM card or Safaricom network, then I will be subjected. I can speak to her, that's true. I have that freedom. But my freedom is limited to time and the condition that there is some money involved, some payment is involved. I can only speak to her maybe for 1 minute. They'll charge me, I don't know, 2 shillings or 1 shilling per minute. Nowadays, I don't know what the rate is, but times and conditions apply. Similarly, living entities who are in this material world, they are under terms and conditions of material nature. You can be here. You can act in whatever way you want, but there are terms and conditions. What are those terms? That karma, the reaction, the action and the reaction. For every action, there will be a reaction. You good activities, then you reap good reactions. You do sinful activities, then you reap negative reactions. These are terms and conditions. You are free to act. You have the freedom to choose to act, but you don't have real complete freedom. That's why we refer the term, that's why it's referred to as conditioned souls. We are not free. But those who perform devotional service are free. They are not conditioned. Pure devotional service, because it is not under the modes of material nature, there are no actions and reactions accrued. So I was just explaining what the term conditioned means, because sometimes these are terms we speak about and they just fly over and we think we know what they really mean, but that's the basic understanding of what conditioned souls mean. So my prayer is saying conditioned souls, they cannot estimate, and who really can estimate the measure of the Supreme Lord? No one can, be it work of the Lord, be it time, be it the potency of the Supreme Lord. We cannot estimate or even measure the extent or the glory of the Supreme Lord. It's beyond us. Right? And Prabhupada is giving an example of Arjuna here, and even quoting Bhagavad Gita 11:16. Arjuna is a pure devotee of Krishna. Even if initially he was illusioned by the Supreme Lord to have compassion for his relatives, that he did not want to fight in the battle of Kurukshetra. It was so that the Supreme Lord can speak the Bhagavad Gita. And Arjuna is saying here, Prabhupada has quoted, Aneka Bahudara Vaktram Netram, Pashyami Tvam Sarvatvananta Rupam, Nantam na Madhyam na Punastavadim. Seeing the gigantic form of the Supreme Lord, he is bewildered. Oh, he cannot see the beginning, he cannot see the end. Anantam, he cannot see the end. He cannot even estimate where is the middle. Napunastavadim Pashanti Vishveshwara Vishwarupo. For this Vishwarupa, he cannot find, he cannot see the middle or the beginning, or Vishwarupa form of the universe. He is seeing innumerable hands, bodies, mouths, and eyes in all directions, and this was bewildering to him. Living entities, this is Arjuna, who Krishna says that I am speaking to you the Bhagavad Gita. Why? Because Bhaktosime Sakachiti. Number one, you are my devotee. Number two, you are my Saka, you are my dear friend. And he's telling us, even him, he cannot estimate the extent or measure the extent of the universal form. Because the Lord has multivarious potencies, Parashu Shakti Viridaiva Shuyati. They are beyond the range of the jivas. Only the Supreme Lord can estimate it himself. Therefore, for living entities who are conditioned to even think they can estimate or measure God or any of his potencies, it's pure madness, like Prabhupada gives the story of Dr. Frog here. But why are living entities who are parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, why can't they do that? Because living entities are flawed by four defects. They are flawed by four defects of conditioned souls. Brahma, Pramada, Karanapatava, and Viprayukta. These are the Sanskrit. Prabhupada explains this very well in the introduction to the Ishopanishad. It's there. He explains these four defects very well, but still we are going to go through them one by one. So the first defect of the living entities, conditioned living entities, is Brahm. No? All that living entities make mistakes. They have this tendency to make mistakes. We hear this common saying that to err is human. human beings are prone to make so many mistakes. Mm. How many times? Mm, Sometimes we even see people wearing the wrong color of socks. Simple mistake. Who doesn't make mistakes? Therefore, we cannot estimate the Supreme Lord or even have perfect knowledge. Human beings cannot have perfect knowledge because our nature is that we are prone to make mistakes. We will make a mistake somewhere. That's one thing. So our knowledge cannot be perfect. It cannot be absolute. Any truth a conditioned soul presents, it has to have some flaws. It's not perfect. Unless it's coming from a higher source. Because we are prone to make mistakes, then there is no perfection in that. And the second defect is pramada, illusion. We are illusioned. And the first illusion is, who would like to make a guess at what is the first illusion of the living entity?
We are this
I am
body.
his body.
Yes, we are this body. Nice. Yes. That's the first illusion. We mistake our bodies, we misidentify our bodies to be ourselves. But we are not these bodies, we are the soul, we are souls with bodies, not bodies with souls. Many people, even those who have a limited knowledge of the soul, they think that we are bodies, but there's a soul inside us. But the reality is, we are souls who have bodies. And after these bodies deteriorate, then the soul will move on to another body. Just like we move from childhood to youth to old age, and similarly, the soul will move from one body to another body. This is the first illusion. And not only that, illusioned beings who are misidentifying the soul, the body to be the soul, or the body to be the self, within that they have minor illusions. Such as when one is intoxicated, they even forget themselves. They forget their misidentified self, which is the body. I remember in school when we were being taught about not to the dangers of consuming drugs, especially the most common one, bangi, marijuana. We were told bangi sio sukuma, meaning marijuana is not spinach or it's not kale, it's not a vegetable. We should be careful of it. And our teacher was telling us about a school he was teaching in, and a student overconsumed marijuana. And he began thinking he was a male student. He began thinking he's female. And his stomach began aching. And the influence of marijuana told him he's pregnant. And then the pain continued increasing, and marijuana told him, now because you're pregnant, you are about to give birth, you are in labor. And so you should begin pushing. And then the pain was so much, he's like, no, this one requires a hospital. So he rushed to the nearest hospital, which is a school dispensary, and he told the nurse that I'm in labor. I'm about to give birth. And he's a male student. Well, this is an isolated case, but he misidentified even his misidentified situation. That's a funny case. So we are illusioned that we are these bodies, but still, because of many other things that we are doing, we create illusions on top of illusions and on top of illusions. Such as if you are driving, you might stop along the highway. That will come under the next. It will come under the next defect of a human being, which is karanapatava, having imperfect senses. So we human beings, we have imperfect senses, which help explain the previous defect, the defect of illusion. If you're driving along the highway from Nakuru to Eldoret, you'll see, if there are no cars ahead, you might see on the tarmac road a pool of water. And you might want to stop the car. But there's no water. As you continue, you pass through there's no water. But your eyes tell you that you saw water. But as you pass through, you don't see water. So did your eyes really see right? Or did they see wrong? Is it magic or what happened? This is what is called illusion. It's called a mirage. We see many mirages. And not only that, it comes in different shapes and different forms, different perspectives. We see things as, and not only that, our eyes cannot even see without light. If there's no light, your eyes cannot see. So if the sun does not come out, if you do not switch on electricity at night, you'll be in darkness. You cannot perceive anything. Therefore, there will be no knowledge, or you will not perceive anything. And therefore, living beings have imperfect senses. Sometimes we also see, like you can see, if you see a flame, if you light a lamp or a candle and you see a flame, you see the flame is in the shape of a teardrop, like this. So your mind is seeing, from your eyes are seeing, and your mind is interpreting the shape of the lamp or the shape of the fire to be like a teardrop, but it's not one being at a time. It's not a constant image, because combustion is happening. This is chemistry. Oxygen is coming in and the carbon is going out, and they are constant flashes. But because they are constant, they form a certain shape, but your mind or your eyes are seeing that, and your mind is interpreting that to be a certain shape. So we have these imperfect senses. Therefore, we cannot, even if we see, we do not really see. And here we have doctors and professors, and they would tell us when they see the X-ray of a patient, there are two ways in which they look at them. Right, Dr. Mugo?
Yes,
There's the lateral view, and I don't know which is the other view.
there's a lateral view and the posterior anterior view. Well,
Yeah, the
you can see
anterior
from
and the
the side.
posterior view.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're looking at the chest X-ray of a patient, can you rule out that he has pneumonia just by the anterior view?
You need several views to confirm some diseases so that you don't miss.
Yeah, see? You need several ways of looking. That's just a material case. A simple X-ray, very, very basic material. Maybe not basic to us, but basic to doctors. But they need several ways to look at it and several views and even opinions of other doctors to rule out that the patient is suffering or not suffering from a certain disease. What about the supreme knowledge? What about transcendental knowledge, which is far beyond the material view? See how limited we are? This is our limitation. And the last and not least mistake or defect of the living entities is that they have a tendency to cheat. This is called vitra ipsa. Who has never told a lie here? Who is that pure sadhu? Who has never told a lie? Who has never cheated? No one's hand is up. Mine was not up, okay? Don't mistake that my hand was up. I've told many lies, especially after coming to ISKCON when my parents didn't know what I was doing and I didn't want to reveal to them. I told more lies. I cheated more than I ever cheated for the past 17 years of my life. It was one lie after another. So living entities have this tendency to cheat or tell lies. But it's also not just cheating and speaking lies. It's more like we living entities, human beings, we have things to represent the being, like we have a representation bias. It's called a representation bias, meaning we have certain desires and we tend to see things as per those desires, or we see things as per how we expect them to be. Like we have certain expectation of something or a certain view of something, and when we explain it to others, we explain it like that. It's a representation bias, representing us alone. Mm. Like if I have to explain something that someone said, many people will not explain what the other person said. They will explain how they understood it. Mhm. That's how rumors start, and that's how information gets distorted. I'm sure you have seen this. Someone is told something, and the same sentence is told to another person, and the other person is supposed to tell the same sentence to another person. By the time, forget even 10 people, by the time the fifth person is saying it, it will be a completely different sentence, or if not completely different, half different sentence. Mm. This happens because of representation bias, vipraripsa, this tendency to say what we expect or what in our minds we view that to be. So us as living entities with these four defects, we really cannot measure the extent and forget measuring. We cannot have perfect knowledge. Perfect knowledge only comes from the Supreme Lord. By trying to say how things are, mm, which it will be relative to us, it will be subjective to us. It won't be the objective truth, or it won't be the absolute truth. Only Krishna knows the absolute truth. And the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 1, 7, 6, and 7, they explain that all living entities, they have these four defects, but the Supreme Lord is not subject to these defects. Therefore, if we want any knowledge, we can only get it from the Supreme Lord. Why? He is not illusioned. He does not make mistakes. His senses are perfect and transcendental. And he does not have the tendency to cheat like us. He does not have a representational bias. He will not put things how he wants them, but how they are. Mhm. Therefore, if we have to get any knowledge, we should get it from him. And that's why we are pointed to the scriptures, Shabda Brahman. Any knowledge we make of our own, it will be flawed by any of these four defects. Therefore, it is not perfect knowledge. But Shabda Brahman, or transcendental sound coming from the Supreme Lord, which has been written down into scriptures such as this Srimad Bhagavatam that we are reading today, Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and many other scriptures that have been written by the Lord by his incarnation, compiled by Vyasadeva and by his pure devotees, then they do not have these four defects, and we are safe to hear from them because we are hearing perfect knowledge. And therefore, Prabhupada is telling us that if we try with our material senses to estimate or to measure the extent of the Supreme Lords, then we will only be like Dr. Frog, who was trying to measure the extent of the Pacific Ocean. Because he had only lived in a well, he didn't know what the Pacific well or the Pacific Ocean could be. So he burst. So our attempt in trying to understand where did the world come from, so many experiments, studying so many theories, physics, chemistry, and all this. They are good, but it's not the absolute truth. The Supreme Lord has already given all this information in the scriptures. Therefore, Prabhupada tells us the best thing to do is become cool-headed and then submit to the Lord, become a submissive devotee, and then try to hear about the Lord. And who will you hear from? From a bona fide spiritual master. And then you will be able to serve the Lord in transcendental loving service. And then maybe you can understand something. Because even his devotees, look at Arjuna, he cannot get to the full extent of only the Supreme Lord can know himself to the fullest. Even his devotees do not know him to the fullest extent. They only know as much as is required for their service. So give up if you have this that I will know the Supreme Lord in full, you will never know because you are a very tiny particle, part and parcel of him. As per your service in this material world and in the spiritual world even, that much knowledge you will be required to know. Why do you need so much knowledge of everything else? So as far as your service will require, that much you will know. Just like when you go to school, first you learn in general everything, ABCD. And then when you get into university, as you progress with your education, then you are required to specialize. Like Dr. Kirtika is a teacher of immunology, if I'm not wrong. Is that true, Dr. Kirtika?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
So Hare Krishna. So your knowledge, of course you can know all other things, but you'll be required more to know of immunology. And that's where you put your effort and knowledge. Yeah? So about oncology and other things, you can know small things, but not everything about them. But your knowledge will mainly be based on immunology. So in the same way, even pure devotees, they know as much to the extent as of their service. That much they don't have it. They have some knowledge of their service and knowledge of other aspects which will be required in their service, but not to the full extent. If there's one who knows Krishna to the full extent, then Krishna is his position will become lower, you know. I hope you're trying to get what I'm saying. So only he can know himself to the fullest extent. And sometimes he says he does not even know to the full extent. So who knows him to the full extent? Therefore, that's why he comes as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and in the mood of Srimati Radharani, trying to understand the mood of his purest devotee, his greatest devotee, Srimati Radharani. And then he's complete. But he's always complete. You know? Although he came for that and then gave the Sankirtan movement. Therefore, we should take shelter of the devotees. The devotees of the Supreme Lord, then they will guide us in trying to understand the Supreme Lord. And by that understanding, what will that understanding help us to do? Janma karma chame divyam evam yovekitasvata tyaktva deham punarjanma naitimameti Arjuna. By knowing about the Supreme Lord, by hearing about him and his activities, his birth, his activities, his pastimes, then we will get rid of material conditioning. The chains of birth, death, old age, and disease, all these four defects which affect many of our aspects in this world will become cut off. And then we will not take birth again here, and we will go back home, back to the spiritual world, where we will eternally serve Krishna. But for that, we have to take shelter of his devotees. We have to serve under his devotees. Krishna says in the 9th canto that for him, he is in the heart of the pure devotees, and the pure devotees always have him in their hearts. And the pure devotees, they do not know anyone else other than Krishna. And he does not know anyone else other than his pure devotees. And therefore, only his pure devotees can give Krishna. So if you want Krishna, you should take association of pure devotees. If you want knowledge of Krishna, knowledge of his pastimes, which will remove your material conditioning, which will remove your ignorance, your illusion, your cheating propensity, your imperfect senses, and your making mistake propensity, then take shelter of the pure devotees. Take association of the pure devotees. Said sadhu sangha. Even one sadhu sangha, sarva shastra hoy. Rava matra sadhu sangha, sarva siddhi hoy. Sadhu sangha, association with pure devotees. All scriptures, sarva shastra koi, they have concluded that Rava matra sadhu sangha. If even you spend one moment with a pure devotee, one moment with a pure devotee, Rava matra. Rava means a moment, meaning you take 11 seconds to divide them by 6. 11 seconds. That's considered to be a moment. As per the calculations of time, that's called Rava. We will come to that topic. I think it's chapter 11 or so. How atomic time has been divided into different categories. It's there in the 3rd canto. So by spending even a moment with a pure devotee, you can attain the highest perfection, Sarva Siddhi Holy. And what is the highest perfection? What is the goal of life? Is there a devotee who knows what is the goal of life?
Krishna Prema.
Yes, Krishna Prema. That can be attained by spending only one moment with a pure devotee. So we should endeavor for the association of pure devotees. And by coming to Bhagavatam classes, you're coming to association of devotees. We may not be pure devotees, but most of us, I believe, we are working on our way towards that. And we are hearing from the Srimad Bhagavatam. In this text here, Maitreya calls Krishna Bhagavata, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for whom the Bhagavatam has spoken about. And Bhagavatam can also be said to be pure devotee. It said there are 2 types of Bhagavatas, Book Bhagavata, the Srimad Bhagavatam, and Bhakta Bhagavata, pure devotee. So when you hear the Bhagavatam, you are associating with Maitreya Muni, you are associating with Vidura Muni, you are associating with Srila Prabhupada. Because we read his purports every day, we are guided by his purports. You hear from your spiritual master, from whom they clarify the essence of Prabhupada's purport, or they clarify what Prabhupada's purport means. So you are associating with so many pure devotees just by reading the Bhagavatam. When you read the Bhagavad Gita, you are associating with Prabhupada, you are associating with Arjuna, you are associating with Vyasadeva and with Krishna himself. So you are associating with pure devotees. Therefore, continue coming to these classes, continue hearing. And if you have an opportunity and you meet a living sadhu, a walking sadhu, then don't hesitate to take association. By my spiritual master's mercy, in India I spent over 5 months with him, and it was a life-changing experience for me. All this small knowledge that I know, I got it from my spiritual master. And it helped having his association, even if I was studying Bhakti Shastri and Bhakti Vaibhav. It brought so much perspective, spiritual perspective to what I was hearing from other teachers and to what I was learning just by associating with my spiritual master. So for you that are initiated or looking forward to initiation, do make time to associate with your spiritual master, associate with service. Mm. And if your spiritual master is not there, then the scriptures are there. Other pure devotees are there. You cannot perfect this Krishna consciousness by your own. Without the mercy of the pure devotees, you are not making it. Even if you are a scholar pandit number one, even if you know all the Sanskrit. Krishna can only be given by his pure devotees. Mm. Therefore, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that you have the power, O Vaishnava Thakur, you have the power to give Krishna. Krishna Dite Paru. Therefore, I can only run to you singing Krishna Krishna. And sing my enthusiasm, you will give Krishna to me. Mm. Krishna is your property. So, dear devotees, I'm going to stop my discussion there, although it's more of a monologue, and request if there are questions and comments or clarifications. Grantra Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.
Jai, Jai. Thank you so much, Mataji, for that discourse. It's always a pleasure to have you every Monday as we rejuvenate the week. Yeah, and you really so much and reminded us the 4 defects of being human, that we are really illusioned, we make mistakes, we cheat others, and our senses are imperfect. Yeah. And it's also something that I have noted. You are the second speaker this week to talk or to mention Isa Upanishads, and I feel that is a key book that maybe we have been asked to get to read, get through it. Yeah, it's when you hear it twice in a week, I think it's a sign. And yeah, for me, I don't have any question. And there's a time you mentioned that Arjuna was illusioned, and we saw how he was so much illusioned before he could be given the transcendental knowledge by Krishna. And him being illusioned was the cause of all this mercy that Krishna spoke the Gita. Otherwise, without him being illusioned, we would not have had the Gita. If really Arjuna knew everything and he was not disturbed mentally or wherever he was in spiritually, I don't think there was the need of a spiritual master. So Krishna made him in that position. However much he's a pure devotee, he was in that position. And I was just wondering, would it be a point to defend pure devotees when they maybe go astray, or maybe they do something that is not maybe in the line, and maybe we can think it's because of a higher purpose they are acting this way. It's not because of their own nature. It's Krishna making them have this tendency for the greater good, not because essentially they are in our material world.
Mm.
I don't know
Thank
whether
you,
that's
Mogo.
what it is. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mogo Prabhu, for that question. Yes, Krishna illusioned Arjuna. You must understand when we mention illusion, generally we mention illusion to the living entities, conditioned living entities in the material world. But there are 2 types of illusion, because there are 2 types of living entities. Living entities who are devotees of the Lord, and living entities who are under material illusion, or who have not submitted themselves to the will of the Supreme Lord. They are not worshipping, they are not devotees. So for devotees, the devotees also get illusions. But their illusion is not called just Maya. They are under Yoga Maya. They are under the internal illusion of the Supreme Lord. But for conditioned souls, they are under Maha Maya. This is external nature of the Supreme Lord, illusion coming from the external nature of the Lord. Just like Prabhupada gives the example, just like in a country we have criminal law and civil law. A normal free citizen will be under civil law. But a criminal in prison, he is under criminal law. So similarly, conditioned souls are under Mahamaya, and liberated souls or pure devotees, sometimes for the pastimes of the Lord, when the Lord has different purposes, then they are put into illusion. But this is Yoga Maya. So the illusion with Arjuna, that was Yoga Maya. There are several cases. Like Mother Yashoda is Krishna's mother. She does not consider him to be God or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He steals butter and other things, she twists his ears, takes a stick, Kartik is coming, runs around, and Krishna is put into fear and binds him. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is forever free, independent, is bound by his mother. So, and one time, she also saw the universal form that is also being discussed here. And Krishna's Leela Shakti removed her Yoga Maya and she began to see and she began to think that my child is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so Yoga Maya had to again illusion her so that the pastime, the mood of the pastime cannot be spoiled. Because if Mother Yashoda starts thinking that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then the real motherly nature cannot come out. So Yoga Maya acts in different ways, or the internal potency of the Supreme Lord acts in different ways on the pure devotees, not on all personalities, so that the Supreme Lord can achieve a certain purpose through the devotees. Like you said, now can we use that for pure devotees when they go astray or what? Krishna has told Arjuna, Arjuna declare boldly, Kunteya Pratiganihi Name Bhakta Pranashati, that my devotees will never perish. And he has also said in Bhagavad Gita 9:30, Apichit Sudracharu Bachatu Ma Manani Bha Sadhur Eva Samantavya Samyak Vyavasito Hisa. But even if my devotee who is established in devotional service commits the most abominable activity, how should we see that? We should still consider him a saintly person, a sadhu. And then in the next verse, Krishna says, for one who sees like this, it becomes established in devotional service and he advances very fast. Because if you begin, you do not know what is usually happening between the pure devotees and the Supreme Lord. Therefore, it's not your point to begin pointing fingers at them. Oh, they are under Mahamaya, they are illusion. Don't do that. It's not your place. And if you don't do that, then Krishna promises you in the next verse in Bhagavad Gita, you will advance very quickly and attain pure devotional service. So we can consider it like that. Pure devotees are under Mahamaya, sorry, Yoga Maya. They are not under, the Supreme Lord is trying to teach us something through them. We have seen in our movement, the first sannyasi disciple of Srila Prabhupada, he was a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and in France he was the first one to take sannyas. After Prabhupada left his body, then he felt this world is useless. And then so many things were happening in the movement. He decided I'd better go back to the material world. It was more reasonable for me. And he never came back. Many Prabhupada disciples or many things happened to the movement and people go, they always come back, but this one never came back. So this devotee, but when he was dying, there happened to be a nurse there who had recently joined the temple in France. But the patient who was in front of him did not look like a devotee at all or anything. But she happened to be there when he was healing his body. And he was saying, "Oh, Prabhupada, you came for me. You came for me, Prabhupada. Prabhupada, you came for me." Prabhupada was his last words. He left the movement in 78, never came, never chanted, never did anything. We can say he was in Maya, but Prabhupada came for him. So it's not our position to be pointing and to be trying to figure out what's happening to this. Your devotees, leave them alone. What we should do, try to get ourselves out of Mahamaya. Okay?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think you have some few minutes. I can open up to comments or question from the rest of the devotees.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I have a question. You just mentioned Mahamaya. So how to get away from Mahamaya, and are pure devotees not affected by Mahamaya?
No, pure devotees are not affected by Mahamaya. Pure devotees are not under Mahamaya. How to get off Mahamaya? The usual nature, the external energy, by taking association of those who are not under Mahamaya. And then we will come out of the grips of Mahamaya. And by taking association, what does that mean? Hearing from them, following those instructions. And the main instruction will be chanting Hare Krishna. So that we can begin purifying our material condition. Then we are even eligible for the association of those devotees who are not under Mahamaya. You have to be ready to work your way through. And then by their mercy, then we will get out of the condition of material illusion.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
If there's no any other comment or question, I'd like to kindly request Professor Kritika Mataji to end the session for us today.
Hare Krishna, thank you for an excellent class today. There being no questions or comments, we can end the session now. Let us all unmute and chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra once. I was going to say Safari Moja, but anyway, let us chant once and unmute ourselves. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। Rasa Sundri Mataji की जय। श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। Peace to all assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Krishna, thank you. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji, for a wonderful class. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.